In this video, I'll share with you some ideas I have about how the society or community at large can help support people with disabilities. Ever since I started this YouTube channel, I have been receiving a lot of questions, and one of the most common questions that I am always being asked is, how can we as able-bodied people help to support people with disabilities? Without a doubt, the first step towards supporting people with disabilities, in my opinion, is recognizing that people with disabilities are, above anything else, human. When we realize that people with disabilities are also human, this automatically means we also have our own preferences, our own rights, our own feelings and emotions that also deserve to be respected and acknowledged. We also deserve to be treated like equal members of society because we are. And if we are ever to talk about supporting people with disabilities, we cannot skip over the issue or the topic of recognizing our humanity and our importance also as human beings. On that note, it's also important for me to point out that being respectful towards each other should be reflected in both actions and words. It's not enough to say you respect other people, but then your actions tell a different story. Recommendation number 2: don't make assumptions. When it comes to dealing with people with disabilities, or pretty much anyone else, I think it's always more important to ask first before jumping headfirst to conclusions. There are two major problems that come with making assumptions. The first one being it can lead to very embarrassing moments for either parties. Assumptions will also lead to further stereotyping, which will cause people with disabilities to be marginalized even more. And now let's move on to point number 3: respect personal space. Ooh, this is a big one. And I believe this one applies not only to people with disabilities, but even to able bodied people as well. As human beings, we all love our personal space. It's important, it's absolutely necessary. This is particularly important for people who use mobility equipment. Talk about your crutches, your walking canes, your walkers, your wheelchairs, your mobility scooters. These pieces of equipment that we use end up feeling like an extension of our bodies. And with that being said, please refrain from touching, leaning against, or even just pushing somebody's wheelchair without talking to them or asking them first. Let's move on to my fourth recommendation. Representation is key. No group deserves to be marginalized or left behind in life. It's very important for society to open up spaces for the inclusion of people with disabilities in all aspects of life. Representation in politics and policy making is also very, very important. It's also quite important to have radio and TV personalities who have disabilities, models with disabilities, company CEOs. Their portrayal in movies is very important. It's important to showcase disabled characters living normal everyday lives, regular, and not just to focus on their disability, because the truth of the matter is, even as people with disabilities, our lives for the most part are actually quite regular, just like anybody else's. Moving on to point number 5: employ people with disabilities. Please. For some reason, there is a big misconception out there that people with disabilities cannot work, that we are not productive, and that we cannot contribute anything to the economy or to the society. People with disabilities are just as ambitious, just as driven, and just as capable as anybody else. If you have a candidate who has a disability who is genuinely qualified for a certain position within your company, offer it to them. People with disabilities aren't also just supposed to be given low level income or menial jobs, but rather they also deserve to be given jobs that they qualify for. Number 6: improve accessibility. If we genuinely want to help support people with disabilities, we need to take the issue of accessibility quite seriously. I know I probably sound like a broken record by now, but that's just how important the issue of accessibility really is. I think one of the biggest problems that we have is people think of accessibility as a special need. No, it's not a special need, it's a right. Able bodied people can access everywhere without a problem for the most part. The same should also apply for people with disabilities. Let's just make it easy for everyone and build structures and facilities that accommodate everyone, regardless of whether they have a disability or not. I know that for most of us, the moment we hear the word accessibility, the first and probably only thing that comes to our mind is ramps. But no, accessibility extends way beyond just ramps for wheelchair users. We also need to think about people with sensory needs, people with chronic illnesses. When planning events, it's very important to think about accessibility. It's also important for you to let your guests know how accessible the place is so that they'll be able to plan in advance and prepare accordingly. Number 7, get involved. Yeah, if you truly want to support people with disabilities, get involved with our advocacy and campaign initiatives because every voice matters. Join us in our fight and help us amplify our message and our voice. Take some time to also educate yourself about disability issues and rights and movements just to familiarize yourself with what is going on within the disabled world. You can also start practicing speaking out against disability discrimination and demeaning comments. You know, when you are hanging out with your friends and someone makes a cruel joke about people with disabilities, that is just the perfect moment for you to say, hey, it's not cool to do this, it's not cool to say this about a certain group of people. And take that moment to educate them as well so that the more people who know how to better coexist with people with disabilities, the better it will be for everybody else. You can also do this by leveraging the power of social media. You can share links to articles, to blogs, to YouTube videos like this one on your social media so that your friends can also have a look and see what is going on within the disabled movement or the lives of people with disabilities. You can also look for volunteering opportunities within your communities. I am quite sure there are many organizations that work with people with disabilities that could definitely use an extra hand. You can also help by making donations to such organizations. You can also help them with their fundraising campaigns, help them to plan their fundraising activities, and just help them attain their financial goals so that they'll be able to do more disability related work. In general, just promote inclusion also, the inclusion of people with disabilities and their integration into society. If you can, hang out with people with disabilities, invite them to your parties, invite them to your hangouts, have fun because people with disabilities also, we are social beings as well. And the more that you hang out with us, you realize that there is nothing that is really that different about us. Thank you for watching this video. As usual, stay safe, stay blessed. Remember, your life is a gift. Make it count always.